real estate disruptors. Can't nobody touch us. And yeah, we about to give you game. Shout out to Steve Train. Real estate disruptors. They cannot touch us. And yeah, we about to give you game. Shout out to Steve Train. Jump on the Steve Train. We about to give you game. REI's flowing through my veins. And you don't have to look no further. See right here, you gon' learn everything. Shout out to Steve Train. Jump on the Steve Train. We real estate disruptors. See, we real estate disruptors. Can't nobody touch us. And yeah, we about to give you game. Shout out to Steve Train. Real estate disruptors. They cannot touch us. And yeah, we about to give you game. Shout out to Steve Train. Jump on the Steve Train. We about to give you game.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Real Estate Disruptors. Today we have two very special guests. We got Brent Daniels and Todd Toback back for round two. Today we're going to be going about how to keep more of your money and close more deals. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm Steve Trang, founder of the Offer Fast Homes app, the only MLS for off-market wholesale properties, and I help entrepreneurs create businesses that support their family, lifestyle, and goals through mentorship. I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. If you want to be on that program, drop me a message on Instagram at steve.trang. If you're excited for today's show, please give me a wave, give me a thumbs up. As a friendly reminder, I don't charge a dime for the show. I don't make any money doing this, so here's all I ask. This is what it costs for you to listen to this show. If you get value today, please tell a friend. Either share this episode right now, tag a friend below, or tell your best takeaway later on, so that way we can all grow together. And this is a live show, so please ask your questions for Brent and Todd to answer. You guys ready?
Yeah!
Let's get ready to rock.
All right, let's go. So, first topic. How do you keep more of your money? What is that about?
Love it. So, okay. So off the bat, here's an interesting thing that I get out of masterminding, out of connecting, out of just having conversations with like the top guys around the country, and it's something that bothers me to death. Okay, this is what they do: they make money, and then they pay themselves like $7,000 or $10,000 a month. Right? Mm-hmm. It's not going back to their family. It's not going back to buying assets. It's just sitting in the account, which makes them then go and spend this on bigger teams, more marketing, expanding to different markets, and then all of a sudden that money disappears and none of it goes home.
None of it goes home.
Right.
Yeah.
So one thing that I highly suggest for anybody, because we're getting off to a fast start here, Steve.
A fast start.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love this. And the last time I was on here, I was told that I have to stay away from the microphone because people are listening, they hear you, and then they have to turn it down every time I'm on. So I'm going to stay back here. But I think it's a really good, and this is something that you taught me, that Todd taught me, and that we've talked about a lot, is keep a certain amount in your business account, right? I keep 2 months. Operation costs, marketing costs, whatever it is, in there. Everything else off the top goes to my savings, goes to my family, everything. I don't care. I'll do it daily. I'll do it weekly. I'll do it that inspires me. That makes me move. And then when I see only 2 months in there, that's when I feel that hunger, right? That heat, that movement.
You know, I heard Grant Cardone actually talk about this, right? He's like, you want to work like you're broke, right? And he's like, Grant Cardone says, I work like I'm broke. You work like you're a millionaire, right? And so it's really funny. Back in 2014, I had a guy running our company, really, really, really nice guy, and he'd say, hey, every time there's significant money in the account, you take it out of the company. And I'm like, yeah. That's what it's for. So, I'd be peeling off 40, 50, 60,000 a month out of the business account and putting it in my savings account.
Right.
And he's like, hey, you're robbing the company. I'm like, no. I'm like, you guys have to operate over this $40,000 or $50,000. But here's where it really, really helped me, right, is that anytime the business account got below $50,000, right, I used to get this nervous energy, right? I'm like, this can't fall below 50. But at the same point, I have paid myself. That money now is working in mutual funds or other real estate or hard money loans, right? But now my company, there's this nervous energy that there's not enough money there, which got me really, really excited. I remember we had at one point when we had a big team, had guys going off Craigslist to get deals off Craigslist, right? To save money on marketing. We had mailing campaigns going out, but I said, what's in the database? What can we get today? What can we extract? What can we maximize? How can we raise up the level of intensity, right? So that you guys can do a deal today. And when you extract money out of that, it takes out that comfort zone.
Yeah.
I mean, thanks for bringing it up. I mean, that's a great way to start.
Well, I think also, Steve, when people are starting out, so just speaking to anybody that's just starting out in this business, the idea is to keep the money, right? I have
That's
a lot
the
of
purpose.
I
You
have
didn't
a
start
lot
a
of
business just to work hard.
right.
Well, I think you have some success. You get some, you want to involve people that you love or people that you know that maybe they were at your other job or maybe you knew them from a different profession.
Try
So
and
you
help a
bring
cousin
them
out,
in.
family,
But I
friend.
also think what people do off the bat, first of all, when you make your first deal, when you're getting your first deals, you should be taking 80% of that. Put 20% back. But if you're doing it smart, if you're talking to people, right? If you're cold calling, if you're getting it from door knocking, if you're being really proactive every single day, you can keep that.
Yeah.
As long as you don't have to throw it into marketing and throw it into something else every single time. I see that time and time again. Take your first deal, throw it back into marketing. Take your first 3, throw it back into marketing. No, start building the nest egg so that when you're out of the military, right, in 6 months, when you want to get out of your job, you want to do all these things because this is a side hustle for most people starting out. Build that up and just forget about it. Like you have to think that it's like starting at zero every day, right? But just put it somewhere. Don't just think that you're being a smart entrepreneur because you're investing more in your company.
Well, I think
we are not making a product.
So what's fascinating, right, is that my personal life, I understood savings, right? My parents taught me about fiscal financial responsibility, every penny saves, penny earned, all that good stuff, right? And when I got into the business world, this switch flipped. I don't know why, but every dollar I made went right back into business. And I kept telling myself, I'm just reinvesting in the business. 7 years later, I'm not making any more money because I'm just reinvesting in the business. And I read Profit First, like, wait a minute, you can pay yourself first?
Yep.
Right.
So, when you're W-2, you pay yourself first. You understand that to build financial wealth. But for some reason, when we get into entrepreneurship,
Right.
that mind goes away.
Well, and that whole equation is your expense. You take out. You take the profit first. Whatever's left over, that's what you're allowed to spend on your expenses.
Exactly.
You're not just putting more in, right?
And just a really easy way to say this, one of the things that I've seen with new wholesalers is that, and because I'm a direct mail guy, Brent is a talk to people guy. But even if you're cold calling, it doesn't matter, right? There are leads that come in, right? And if you want to simplify this business, there's just 3 things.
Yep.
There's marketing, right? And I suggest you start out with just 1 or 2 marketing channels, right? When you start spreading out, that's where you get loose with the money, by the way. A little PPC here, a little Facebook here, a little, text blasting here,
Lead generation.
Whatever it is, right? Don't get sloppy, right? Focus on one, right? But where people get mistakes is that if they don't have another deal, they're like, I need to market more. Right? Meanwhile, they have leads sitting in their database right now that need to be qualified or requalified or taking down that prospect into a sales path. And so because most people that maybe have money in their account, they think they want to dump that back into fresh new marketing when they're already sitting on gold, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Right. But it's something that happens. I don't know if there are people saying it, but whatever it is, or you see other people doing it, it's like, oh, they're just reinvesting back in their business, which sounds great.
Yeah.
Right.
But there also needs to be a pay yourself component.
100%.
So is there a target, how much, you say like, if you get 2 months, everything else clears out. Do you have the same?
Well, like for myself, for one of my companies, I pay myself a $12,000 salary out of our wholesale business. But with that, that's a salary, so that comes out every single month. And then on top of that, I take out monthly distributions based on where the account is, right? So for us, I take 50. My bottom line for my
Account?
Wholesaling account is $50,000, right? And I've always kept it out there, right? So if 10,000 goes out or 15,000 goes out, right, just at that 50 level, and again, it's like not like if you take it out, you couldn't you couldn't put that back in.
Right.
But just that mental thing where that account is always sitting at $50,000, for at least for the wholesaling side, right? Always has kind of kept this little nervous energy, right? That keeps people producing. What's closing? What's in the pipeline, right? Keeps it front and center. So that's the number that works for me. But I think whatever the number is for you, right? That's and they talk about that in Profit First, right? That's going to force you to, be more resourcely in your own company.
Yeah.
Well, can you put as a rough guideline, 50K? Is there a certain amount of months that sustains you? I mean, I think with direct mail, that's like probably 2 months max.
Right.
At 50K.
Well, again, it depends on how much you're mailing, right?
Right.
So for us, at one point, we had a direct mailing budget like $60,000 or $70,000, right? I mean, right now, our direct mailing budget right now is only 15 to 20
a month,
right? 15 or 20 a month, right? But as you pay that out, also, if you have a pipeline, right, and you are working those leads, right, you're going to be getting in that. You're thinking about getting deals in weekly, and that's what we could talk more about today. Right?
Yes.
Is that 50? You're right. If you have to wait 2 months to get paid again, right? That's where people get into trouble, right? You got to earn money today, right? You got to work like you're broke, like a crazy person, right? Or if you don't want to work like a crazy person, then at least have a couple of people around you, but you got to be on them to make money, right? And fine, if you want to grow a bigger operation, do that, right? That's okay, but you're going to have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and make sure that with that expanding team that you're getting paid for it. And we talked about this before we hopped online, that you must get paid for additional risk. Right? It's not. I've seen so many people. They're like, I need a disposition manager. I need an acquisition manager. I need a lead manager. I need an admin. I need an admin for my admin. I need, I need a. And so it's like it gets out of control.
Right.
Right. And I think it's more about ego. Than profit. More about ego than profit, right? I mean, we talked about, I know you're going to have Jason Boozy on the show. I mean, you have some really great guests on the show, by the way, man. Good job.
Very lucky.
Your show is just awesome. And, this guy is all about doing, monster deals, which I'm a big fan of, but keeping all those profits. And the reason why he's able to do that is that he's got his eye on that. He knows what he's after, right? And that's the check. And so some people, I think, we get caught up in the ego, and maybe that underneath, that's maybe what they're after.
Right. Well, and I think, listen, some people want to build it big, whatever. Got it. So the first part of this is keep more money. So let's just put a bow on this, okay?
Yes.
Pay yourself first, because I want to deep dive. I want to get into the get more deals portion of this whole thing, because that's what people are really tuning into to get excited about. But keep more, pay yourself first, number one. Number two, listen to me. There is enough meetup groups. There's enough support. There's enough Facebook groups. There's enough mentorships. There's enough things out there. You do not need a business partner. You don't, okay? You want to really keep the most? You don't need a business partner that takes 50%. You can hire somebody. Listen, I had a business partner forever. He's making twice as much as he was when we were together. Same, right? Making a lot. It's just, listen, you don't need a business partner. Keep it for yourselves. Have the security inside yourself to know that there can only be one person on the white horse. There's only one person leading the charge in the company, and just let that be you. Have the confidence in there. And if you're a number two, be a number two. But just understand that, okay? So that's keeping the money. Let's talk about getting more. More deals.
Let's talk
you
about
told me not to hit the table.
Let's go. Let's talk about it.
But you guys touched on it. So we break down this business. There's only 3 parts: lead generation, conversion, and disposition or exit strategy. Because this is real estate. This isn't just wholesale.
Correct.
But let's just call it exit strategy there. Well, I don't think people are having a problem getting the leads. The problem people have is converting.
Conversion. Conversion.
And you guys, I mean, this is your guys' wheelhouse, so I'm going to let you guys just go, furious here. But it's just, that is such an important thing, right? It is. You can bring in as many leads as possible, but if there is no conversion, if you're not there at the right time, saying the right things, locking them up, shortening the timeline, you're losing. This is how you get more deals. 100%. It's, yes, go out there, talk to people, get referrals, cold call, text message, mail, pay-per-click, all these things, bandit signs, all these things, right?
Yeah.
That's what people want to talk about. people should be talking about conversion.
Well,
People should be talking about the sitting belly to belly, face to face, knee to knee with the seller, lead follow up, pre-qualification, offer presentation.
Yep.
So let me summarize actually what you just said.
Yep.
Is, I think a lot of people are always looking for the magic bullet,
Mm-hmm.
right? And because of that, they're always dabbling their feet in these different marketing channels when they're just looking for a laydown.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't know about you, but in San Diego, the laydowns, they're gone.
There's no laydowns.
They're gone. Okay, so if you're just joining this business and you're like, hey, I want to, just start and get $50,000 check. Hey, look, that can happen in some markets, and I'm not saying, it's an impossibility, but you can't rely on that.
Mm-hmm.
You just absolutely can't rely on the laydown. And so now you must say, okay, this business, you actually have to get paid for the value that you give your salespeople. If you have a sales team, I think that's one of the things you get paid for, right? Or the value that your persuasion skills when you meet with a seller. And so they're spending more money, or looking for a new strategy, or looking for some new tool out there that's going to solve the problem of conversion.
The hard work.
Right? And so for me, I think this business comes down into that conversion part. Only three things. Is that number one is that you got to understand that conversion is everything. If you look at anyone making 50 grand a month or 6 figures a month in this business, right, they understand conversion.
Yeah.
Right? They say this is imperative. I've got to be able to do this. And if I don't do this, then I won't be successful. And if I do, I'm going to write my own check.
Exactly.
Number two, though, I think people have to understand this is not a natural born skill. Right? That they're not natural born salesperson. You don't get off that easy. Okay. For me, when I first started, I was the worst. And there's a long story. I don't think we have time for it, but long story. I was in a van selling alarms. I didn't sell one, right? And this.
You were in a van selling alarms? Is that what you just
said? The vans took us to neighborhoods selling alarms.
Okay, yeah.
And after 3 weeks, I didn't sell one. And there was a 60-year-old woman, pothead, who was living in the back of a van, who was crushing me.
Yeah.
Right? And she was like, and I was complaining about the product one day. And she was like, stop complaining about the product. Yo-yo, it's 20-year-old snot-nosed kid.
Yeah.
She's like, learn the script, practice, get in front of a mirror, which I was too good for. I had a college degree.
Of course.
And she was living in the back of a van smoking pot.
You knew more than her.
Right, and I knew more than her, right? Meanwhile, she's making $700 a day, and I'm making nothing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so, that was a real punch in the gut, but I learned from that. And that you've got to understand that this can be learned. And then third, once you know that, you've got to make the commitment. You've got to make the commitment this is your craft.
Yep.
And that you can be better, and that you've got to put in the work daily to become a master closer.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's missed, right? Because they think that you can go learn this skill, right? And you just spend a day or whatever, and you can learn this skill. But the commitment part, I think, is missed. Because I go to sales training still,
right?
Every single week, once or twice a week, and I've learned it, I've heard it. It's like, oh wait, that's what I missed.
Right.
That's why I screwed up. So how does someone commit to getting better at sales?
Well, there's a few ways, right? Number one, obviously want to listen to podcasts and learn. Brent and I actually have an event coming up.
Yeah.
If you go to Wholesale Certified Pro, you can find more about that. But there's a ton of free podcasts that I put out on Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I've also put it on Brent's YouTube channel. So there's free stuff there you can start with, right? Yeah. But I'd start there. Okay. And the second thing is, if you want, we could talk about some of those sales things today if we have time. How are we doing on time?
Yeah,
we're doing. We've got plenty of time. We're good.
Great. So, I'm going to focus on not actually on meeting with a motivated seller. That's like a whole nother part about it, right? Most people get caught up is really the process of being with the seller on the phone.
Yep.
Right? And communicating with the seller. So again, this lay down, and you can interrupt me at any time here. The lay down is kind of a thing in the past. Anybody can close a lay down, right? So I'm going to say, the person who says, I need cash today, and the first person who comes to my house with a contract, I'm going to sell for 60 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody can do that.
Yes.
So if that's the person, this is not that.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens to most people is they're on the phone with somebody and they're first starting out, and the seller, when they call, they immediately take control of the conversation. They're like, what company are you with? How long you been in business? How much are you going to pay me for my house?
What's your license number?
What's your license number, right?
No
and of course, Brent goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I just give him my cell phone number. Yeah.
And so immediately, right, the new wholesaler or salesperson or acquisition specialist, want to call yourself, they immediately tighten up and their blood pressure goes to the roof and they start like defending themselves.
Yep.
Right? And they lose control of the conversation when you're not.
Or answer the questions.
Answer their questions.
Yeah.
And so when you're doing that, you got two problems. Number one, you're not directing the conversation to where you need to go. But the other part, three problems. Number two is that you could possibly waste your time with an unmotivated prospect. And then three is that you're not listening. You're not gaining the information needed for the rest of the 5 things that I'm going to talk about. So one of the things that I'm going to talk about, right, is the reversing, the redirect. Okay, and the redirect is that when someone responds to you, asks you a question, the way that you can maintain control of a conversation is to immediately respond with a question. I've learned this from a lot of sales trainers out there. And Derek, my sales manager from Pfizer, was amazing at this.
Yeah.
And so if someone calls and asks a question, you immediately want to respond with a question. Sometimes you can respond with a little bit of an answer, but then immediately cut into the question.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're like, hey, how long have you been in business? Right? I could say, if I want to answer it, if it's going to serve me, I might say, well, 18 years, but let me ask you a question. Right? Is there a reason why you asked me how long I've been in business?
Right.
Right? And I took it back. And she may say, well, it may come out. This is what I love about the redirect, is that she may say, well, I'm meeting with 5 or 6 other investors and they were here right before you, right? Which then will lead me to, oh, well, how did that go? And she's like, well, I have an offer on the table for, 65, 63, 62, 61, and 60.
Yeah.
And just from a question of how long have you been in business, I know now she has 6 offers,
Right.
all on where I need to be. And now I've cut like a year off my sales cycle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've got to make sure I'm talking to the microphone here. Go ahead, Brent.
I want to, because you guys are deep sales training, years of experience, it's killers, like unbelievable, right? I always, when I was on the phone, when I was following up, I always, or just a cold call, my 2 biggest things that I literally had in front of me in my little prospecting like booth would be confirm and approve. Confirm what they're saying, approve it. Oh yeah, I want 250,000. Oh great, okay, you want 250,000, and then ask another question, right? What is your guys' thoughts on that? How does that do? You guys do some of that? Does that play into some of the
mirroring,
redirect? Right.
250,000, right? Or
Yeah.
It sounds like you said 250,000.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So repeating,
Yep.
mirroring, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. People want to feel heard, and there's no better way to feel heard than to repeat what they said.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that there's no, you want to cause friction in a conversation, start disagreeing with them off the bat. 250,000? I mean, I'm
Where did
looking
you
at
get that number
Zillow.
from?
It
Yeah.
says 178. Are you crazy?
Oh, yeah. Not to go off on a tangent, but yeah, I mean, like, let's talk about agreeing. It's funny. So Brian, one of our acquisition managers, we're meeting with like an extreme right wing, like super right wing, right?
Yeah.
And she starts going, and Brian, he's kind of like, leaning to the left. And she starts talking. All of a sudden, she's like, "Well, how do you feel?" And he's like, "Well, I'm kind of more on the." I'm like, "Shut up."
I completely agree with whatever you just said.
Yeah, and I'm like, just be quiet. I'm sorry, did I put a bruise on the?
No, that was good. I like it. It's like kind of fires me up.
But that's really, really good. Actually, I learned a tip there. So for me, I haven't been great at actually repeating what the seller says, but what I always say, you got to cushion stuff.
Yeah.
So whenever you use any of these techniques, if you feel tension rising, you got to cushion, right? And that's a technique that we use. And so sometimes I use tone of voice and I back up.
Yes.
But you just use repeating.
Yep.
So there's these little tools that you can use when you start to use these communication techniques, right? That cushion is going to enable you to be able to do that if you sense that and sense the volume, and that's a great one.
And I think also with the mirroring, just like you were saying, the tone and pace that they're talking. So I work with a lot of people in the TTP family that have joined, and one of the toughest things, so they'll send me their recordings of their calls.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the tone is here. when the other people are talking and they're kind of going here. And if your tone is here, it's really tough for them to open up. It's really tough for them to like feel like you're not just going through the motions or that you're a telemarketer or something. You know what I mean? Most people that's what I see with most people that hire Filipinos or somebody from a different country is their tone. Their tone is here because they're trained almost robotically to say the script as it is said, right? And so it really pulls people out of rapport. So I think not only confirming and approving, but using a tone in where it sounds, accepting and loving and okay, and then you can go in with a question.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up because I actually had this yesterday. I'm on a sales call, and the guy is just talking really slow, and I naturally talk faster. And so I had to intentionally slow just because it was so far apart, our speed of conversation. I had to slow down. It was really tough for me. It was painful. It was a painful conversation, but you have to.
Yep.
You have to slow down. You have to mirror. You have to build rapport. And that's exactly it.
Yep. Love it. And I think, whenever we're talking about converting these leads, right, we need to make sure that we're spending time with people that will actually do business with us.
Right.
So I think
pre-qualifying
them is so critically important, and that's one of the steps that most people don't go into because they don't want this precious lead to not be a lead anymore, right? Especially as you're starting out, if you only have a few leads, if this is anybody that's being nice to you or they're saying yes or whatever else, you're like, I got to guard this lead. I love this lead. I don't want it to go, so I don't want to ask the tough questions.
One of the biggest mistakes you can make.
Right? You see it with your students?
I don't see it as much with our students because we preach so hard on disqualifying as fast as you can. Like, get them off, kick them out. Like Max, my business partner, if it's from 5 minutes, this is not a real seller. Let's go back to the office. Let's start prospecting again. There's no point in spending an hour and a half with an unrealistic seller.
Right. Yep. That goes back to don't be scared of the truth, right? Is that you want to be a truth teller and a truth seeker, right? And so don't be scared of that answer because you're right. People are like, oh, well, I'm just practicing. I'm like, that is a bunch of malarkey, right? Is that you don't spend time practicing with unmotivated sellers, right? And usually we'll do that because we don't want to spend, if you are cold calling, you don't want to spend the time prospecting, so you'd rather talk to someone who actually will talk to you.
Right.
But let me talk a little bit about that second step, which we use, which is verbal commitments, right? Verbal commitments, let's talk about pre-qualifying.
Yep.
Is that a lot of times where people get in trouble, even with money and costs, again, they're spending so much money just trying to look for those laydowns, right? And they're not pushing any of the leads forward in that database.
Yep.
Because once you start putting the pressure on, and good pressure, I mean, just asking really, really good questions, that will automatically disqualify people.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
And so again, being scared of kind of where you're at. And then the other part about that is that once you have that courage, you'll find people will move forward. And so a lot of these people who we do business with are natural procrastinators, right? Think about it. Someone who's behind on taxes, or their son has been living in the property for 3 years. By the way, my all-time favorite seller, if you've got a family member living in a property, call me right now. I can help. Okay. Right. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's like the best deals ever, right? There's so much emotion tied to it.
Oh, it's charged. Very emotionally charged.
And the ones that go on the longest, right? And so when you get there, it's never about price. And so with those situations, they tend to drag on and on and on and on and on. And so what's really important for us that we learned is to end every phone call with a very next action, right? And then have the seller always make it their idea. Define the very next action in specificity, right? And I don't want to overcomplicate that, but what are they going to do between now and the next phone call to be able to make a decision? It may not be a contract, but it might be the very next step.
Yeah, what we like to call it a clear future.
Okay, clear future.
We have to have, you and I, we're on the same page that when we talk again, you know what you're going to do, I know what I'm going to do, and then we meet again.
That's awesome, right?
Yeah.
And then have a date and time. So the whole thing about I will call you next Thursday, right? No way, right?
I'll call you next week.
That'll forget it. Yeah, and it's just the comfort zone. It's the comfort zone because a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to set the appointment. I don't want to seem like I'm doing too pushy. I'm going to lose the lead. All right, that's it. And so you will know by pressing into this, by leaning into this, right? The truth will start to leak out. It's like a sponge, right? Right? And you get to find The truth. So you will lose leads, and that is okay.
It's great.
Right?
Yep.
Because now it'll start to be very, very clear. And now we have a hot and warm list.
Mm-hmm.
That list, if you have it, first of all, there should be 20 or 30 people on there at all times, right? And that's good because you can continue to work that path. And so now everybody knows what time you're going to speak. And if you set those commitments and someone doesn't show up 2, 3, 4 times,
Yep.
well, you kind of know.
Mm-hmm. Or you said a week commitment.
A week commitment, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I always find that talking about getting them talking, the longer I get them talking, the longer anybody, the more they open up, right? It's almost like the first, I would say probably 45 seconds to 90 seconds, it's like they got that shield, that reflex no, they've got that force field on. And then I always ask specifics about the house. What remodeling have you done to the kitchen and bathrooms in the last 5 years, right? And then they start going, and then they start talking about the floors, and then they start talking about the roof. Then they start talking about their son that's lived there for 3 years, right? So, you've got condition, timeline, motivation, price. Those are the 4 things you got to pre-qual every single time. And I love going condition and getting them to open up, because a lot of people will tell you about the house because that's just kind of like catalog, right? It's just kind of in their head. It's easy for them to go. And then they start getting into what happened to the house and their motivation and what's going on here. And the toughest one, and this is what I wanted to bring up to you, I'm setting you up for this. Okay. The toughest one to pull out of everybody is the price.
Oh,
right? Price, for sure.
Right?
Before we get there, I want to talk about how many bad movies that you sat through and was like, this movie sucks. But I already watched 45 minutes. I might as well.
I'm going to go through. Yeah.
I was going to finish. And so having this conversation with a seller, if you have a long conversation, they'd rather just go with you if you guys can get close on price, because they don't want to have this conversation again with another person.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Very good.
Steve.
That's
brilliant,
good.
brother.
Yeah. I mean, that is true.
Yeah.
And we talk about, actually, when you're meeting with motivated sellers, we have that pain step.
Yeah.
And I remember, for me, I'm a negotiator, right? I don't like to pay retail for anything. But I'm telling you, I was in a car dealership one time, and I was there for 3.5 hours. And if they would have thrown $2,500 at the end on there, I would have still signed the paperwork. I would have been, they got me. They knew it. I think they only got me for like a $300 clear coat or something. So.
The undercoat.
Undercoat.
Yeah.
Breast protection. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there's a few other things about the
pulling out price.
Pulling out price. So, let's talk a little bit about, price conditioning, because there are 5 techniques of that we talk about in the No Limit Selling System. But if you want, we can talk about price and some techniques that you can really get on price.
Yeah. I think people would love it. Yeah.
Okay. So, some people say, well, how do I get the seller to come down? Right? Well, first thing, and you probably know this, and maybe you've preached it, but you got to have a motivated seller. Okay, so let's
let's assume.
Let's assume the motivated seller. You've had the conversation. You're asking the hard questions.
There's real pain.
There's real pain, right? There's nothing that you can do to help someone who does not have a problem, right? Besides sheer ignorance, and that is, it's lightning, right? You're not really going to see that. So let's assume that, and it's something that you can help. This is something that people don't realize, but you have to believe, that you are worthy of doing a 20 or a 50 or a 100K deal. Okay, you are worthy. You can do it. Your market has something to do with it, but really, it's much more about you.
Yeah.
Okay, we were just talking about Jason Boozy, by the way. He's going to be a guest on the show. You get awesome guests. Watch that episode. But this guy does $500,000 deals. I think he's got a course called 500K deals. He gets them because he expects them. Right? He wants them. He is looking for them. And when he does this, his eyes only see that kind of money.
Yep.
Right? And when he sees, and when he sees a 10K deal or 20K deal, he's not that interested in it.
He's not getting out of bed.
He's not getting out of bed. In our company, we've always operated the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, the same exact way. And we ran a course called Bigger Deals. And I said, look, I bet you that I can double everyone's deal size on this thing without spending any more money on marketing, right? And we did some things in the course on the disposition side and some sales training side, and that was part of it, and it's a great course. But the number one thing, and by the way, like literally we had like an 80% success rate. Everybody who showed up doubled their deal size. Okay, but the number one thing I said was, what are you making now? Okay, and then let's double that.
Yeah.
Right? And then we focused on that. Okay? And just by that, people made more. Right? Because how do most people negotiate? They go in and pull it all together now. Is they say, okay, I'm meeting with the seller, and if I could just make $10,000, right, then I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
So they go there, and that's exactly what they negotiate for on the front end. And guess what? When they're negotiating with the buyer, let's say the buyer side gets crazy, they sabotage themselves. Right?
Yeah.
They sabotage themselves. You are sabotaging yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So make the decision, right? Turn up the volume.
Massive
Turn
deals.
up the heat. Do a massive deal. Right?
Yes.
Now, I'm not going to tell you that you're going to do a 50 banger every single time or 100K. But I tell you what, right? You're going to if you're not looking for them, if you're not expecting them, you're not going to get them.
I say this on stage. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say there's two parts I wanted to add here. Is first, we've grown up. Well, most of America. I didn't grow up this way. Most of America grows up. We just don't talk about money.
Yeah.
So it's a taboo topic. Like in our household, this is crazy. But we knew exactly how much everyone else made in the family. Like cousins, aunts, like everyone knew because grandma always asked.
Yeah.
And she told everybody. She was a gossip machine.
Yeah.
So it was not taboo in our household. So I'm very comfortable talking about money. But for the most part, people are. And the second thing I heard someone say was that you are making exactly what you feel like you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
So I think right here, we're talking about mindset, because if you thought you were worth more, you would do something about it, right? So you have to flip that switch in your mind, which I think is a great point that you're making here.
No, I just know you do a $50,000 deal, your brain chemistry changes forever.
Yeah.
Because now it's possible. Now it's not just that you're thinking that this isn't just some fantasy. This isn't just a hope. This isn't faith that you can do big deals. You did it.
Yeah.
It's in your bank account. Like, you can literally make that decision now. You can tweak your mental antenna to look for massive deals. You can. You can. And so, getting into the price negotiations, I think that's where we're kind of bringing this to, is pulling out the price from the seller. Well, they're going to want to play around with you as well. And oftentimes, we try our best, at least at my company, I'm sure at yours, to get the price out and yours, to pull the price out of them first.
Yes.
But sometimes you can't.
So,
and sometimes you have to take a shot across the bow.
Well, let's talk about how to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's really important. I always talk about 3 levels of rapport. So you always want to be able to do this. The 3 levels of rapport. We're going to go into detail on this in Wholesale Certified Pro. But the issue there is that if you build rapport, right, you can go in for really, really low prices, and if they're like, no way, you can still save it, right? But if you have this I just met you, right? I'm going to try to have sex on the first date, right? It's going to be really tough to recover from that, right? Yeah. So you want to have really, 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 really good rapport, level 3 rapport. The other part about this, though, is that you have to be able to cushion. So if you go for that low price, if you're expecting it, right, is that how do you go in deep, but knowing that you can recover? Am I making sense, by the way?
Yep.
Right?
We'll elaborate on it, but yes, you are making sense.
Okay.
We'll elaborate a little bit more on that, but go ahead.
Okay. So one of the things that one of my mentors taught me, and this is back when I was doing lease options, Peter Conti and David Finkel, when they were teaching lease option courses, was something called the range technique, right? So when you talk to a seller and you try to get that number, gosh, it seems like sellers are getting better and better at this, right? Not saying that the number.
They're going to seminars.
They're going to seminars.
They listen to the seller distressed seller negotiation podcast.
Brent actually has a podcast teaching sellers how to negotiate with wholesalers.
No, they're getting a lot of reps.
They're getting a lot of reps, right? That's a good point.
Yeah.
But if you can't get a number, or if somehow you want to ask 5 different ways, like, what's the lowest you'll take? Have you talked to anybody else at the property? Give me your best guess. What would you be happy with? So you should ask at least 5 different ways, okay? And we won't get into that. But if you can't get that, and they throw out a number, the way to cushion this is the range technique. So they say, I want 200,000, right? Instead of saying, I'll give you 100, say, hey, look, what if I could get something like 100 to 150,000? Right? And I know that's a big range, right? But is that something that you'd even consider, or probably not, right? And it's you're offering a little bit of reluctance, so you're pulling away, and what it does, it's a little bit of a cushion. And I say probably not. The tonality is everything.
Yeah.
This is I wanted you to elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that something you would consider, or probably not?
Yeah, probably not, And so, like, it's Brent. He's just a nice guy. He's non-pressuring. So even though I'm offering you 50 cents on the dollar, this guy's just so nice. He's not putting any pressure.
Right.
Versus if I'm like, I'll give you 170,000 right now, sign the dotted line.
Sign
Tension
or
rises.
taking it away.
But I could offer 130 with a different tone of voice, and they love me.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all about the tonality, in my opinion, and then using that range technique. 'Cause I didn't really make you an offer. I just threw it out there.
So what I do, just a little bit differently, is I'll throw Brent under the bus, right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what we can offer yet, but I know investors in the area, these TTP guys,
Yeah.
they're like 100, 130 on this.
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, is that something that you would even consider?
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just throwing investors under the bus. It's like, that's offensive. It's like, yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, that sounds like something we could do. It's like, okay, maybe we can, maybe we could possibly work something out here.
Yep.
But I'm throwing everybody else under the bus.
That is awesome, by the way. I'm going to take that back for our team. That is awesome.
Yeah.
You know what? With that, it's part of that, actually. That was another thing I was going to talk about, is price conditioning.
Yeah.
Right? So price conditioning, and so you are now saying, hey, this is what investors do. I'm definitely pocketing that. But that was it's something that investors do. So it's not only one investor offering you that, but they all are going to offer you that.
Yeah.
Right? And so I don't even need to start negotiating there. What you do during this process is you plant a seed. Right? So I don't know about you, but have you ever done a remodel in your house?
Oh, man. Oh, it's terrible.
Right, okay. But the number that you start out with, right,
Oh, yeah.
is like low, right? But then like it always quadruples, right? But what happens is, magically, but what happens is because it kind of happens over a period of, let's say, 3 to 4 months,
Yep.
right? It's kind of like you say you get this fatigue thing, right? And by the time you get to the end, you're like, I'm just glad to be done with this, right? So if you're price conditioning the entire time, one of that ways, like that's a first strike, what you just talked about, right? That's one of those. But you're always sowing these seeds. So when you go through the house, never argue with the seller. Man, it's better hanging out with you guys here. You're hanging out with the seller, and you're starting to look at the property, and you start rubbing the little imperfections, like the little mold in the window or the roof and the thing over there. The worst thing that you could do is start saying, oh, that's $30,000,
Yeah.
that's $20,000, and that's $15,000. First of all, if you're not going to fix it, you're a liar, right?
Yeah.
But what you do is you just rub it. Right, and all of a sudden they're gonna like start defending themselves, right? And you go, you're like, oh, and you start taking notes.
Yeah.
That's so what Max likes to do is he likes to turn on the flashlight on his iPhone and just kind of let it sit there.
Okay.
And then not say anything. He'll just let it sit there, and they'll like, well, no, that was from.
Yeah.
Right. Now the interesting thing is that if you can let that sit,
Yeah.
right? If you can let that sit, for 2 hours, right? Or you think that's another, price conditioning,
Right.
right? One other thing that I will go back to is you're always also weaving these things in. So you're always weaving back in the price conditioning. You're always weaving in the rapport. As soon as you feel tension, right? Weave in the rapport.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so one of the
But don't make it like obvious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't just keep pulling them back into weird rapport because you're trying to do it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? A rapport could be just like saying something nice to them or in a good tone or agreeing with them or whatever they're saying. Oh, yeah, I got it. Yeah. You know what? It is a lot of work, but, don't worry about it. You know, anything. You know what I mean? Just making them comfortable. It doesn't have to be like, oh, okay, I guess he fishes. You like fishing? Yeah, I like fish too. I eat them all the time. You know what I mean?
Well,
for
so
sure.
let me talk. Some of the stuff the rapport building that you're talking about, though, it seems very natural. Seems very natural.
Right.
Okay, I know I'm setting you up here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Right. So why does it seem so natural, Brent?
Well, first of all, I do it a lot.
Right.
Right? You have to understand there's different personality types, and you have to get at the plate. It's just like Tom Kroll said, it's perfect. It is the education. It is not education plus action equals results. It's action plus results are your education. So the more, and I was very comfortable. The talking to strangers, being around, growing up, even in college, I didn't do it as much. I really had to get to a lot of different reps, being around it, getting in the situations to where I understood, when I agree with this tone or when I do this, people seem to open up a little bit more that are this type of personality, that type. So it took some training and a lot of practice, like a lot of practice, and actually being, I think the biggest thing is like actually being like alive and in the moment and aware. You know what I mean? Not just being there and just kind of, thinking of how am I going to get this dude down 100K.
Well, I think the thing
be present
that happens is you got to get so many repetitions. You got to be so good that you can kind of not be there, and you can kind of see what's happening as it's happening. Like, you're not you in that body. Like, you're just kind of like, you're there, but you see what's going on as if you were a third party.
Right.
And you got to have a lot of reps to recognize it, right? Where you can recognize the tone, you can recognize the body language, you can see the eyebrow twitch, you can see the arms crossing, and the first 10, 20, 50 appointments, you might not recognize that.
Right.
But you get enough reps, talk to enough people, you're going to start noticing these subtle...
Who's the dude that wrote the book Principles?
Ray Dial.
Right. So Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, did an interview with him because he's his mentor. And you see the whole time that Ray is talking, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, whatever you want to call him, is like this. Actively listening. Actively listening. Totally engaged. I think active listening is such a huge tool. You don't have to be crazy with it. You don't have to go too wild and then interject and blast them out. But active listening on the phone, especially, is critical.
Yeah.
But I think also in the moment, in the appointment, it's just so important. And I think you can turn it off. Like you are right now, right? Like, no, I mean, like, you could be nodding and going, but then as soon as you're talking about something serious or whatever, you can show that you're listening and you're serious. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, there's ways to turn it on and off to show authenticity. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yep. Yep. So
let me, I won't take us too far off topic here.
I love it.
Right? But one of the things that you're talking about is like, sitting there in reps and being able to do this was one thing that's going to give you confidence, right? Because if you are like desperate, and by the way, if you're trying to do your first deal or you're like cash poor right now, like I get it. I've been there, and you're like, I've got to get this next deal.
I need this deal to happen. I've been there. I remember these days, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Where like, we need this deal to close.
Right. And or you maybe just like joined a coaching program and you spent $5,000, and now like your wife is going to be like, you are an idiot if you don't close this
You better
deal.
get some deals.
Right, you better get some deals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a confidence that happens, obviously, once you have money in the bank and you've done the deals, right? So you also have confidence knowing, though, that if this deal doesn't close, that it's okay. That there's somebody right behind that, and you have to believe that, right? So my recommendation, and all this fits together, that 1, 2, 3 thing that we were talking about, is focus on 1 or 2 marketing channels. Right? And then make sure, it doesn't even have to be a lot of money. That's the crazy part about this, is that that marketing is going out every day or every week
consistently,
like clockwork. So that while you're with that seller, if you are just a one-man shop, you get 2 or 3 leads as you're on the phone with that seller, because all you need is 2 or 3, 4 leads a day to make $100K a month. I mean, that is true.
It's true.
Right? And I'm more worried about the guy who's getting 20 leads a day working by himself than the guy who's getting, and he's waiting a day or 2 to get back to these people, and the guy's got 2 or 3 who's on the spot with them. Right? So you got to have marketing. You got to have your head straight. That goes back to your psychology, right? And that way you can use some of these techniques, and you could listen and not care you're going to lose the deal, and have that out of matrix body experience that we're talking about. The other part about this that also builds a lot of rapport, and also kind of works into all these 5 communication techniques works together, is something that we call the stealth mismatch. Right? And the stealth mismatch is going the opposite of what the seller does, because most sellers are going to lie. And the key is they're going to lie, right? And so a lot of them don't know, aren't going to tell you that they're motivated. Right? I mean, as simple as that.
I've got time.
All right, I've got time. I've got time, right? So the one you said,
if I get the right price.
So here's what I'll say: is, the good thing is, I mean, if your son stays here another 6 or 7 months, you're okay with that, right? I mean, it sounds like you're good.
Oh God, no.
Okay, boom. Now I got. Why not? He's got a really pretty girlfriend. I mean,
sure, he'll probably get a job sometime. Right.
And so you can do that, right? And say, oh, the good thing is you could put $40,000 or $50,000 in this place, list with an agent, and give you way more than I can give you.
Yeah, you got options.
You've got options, right? And let them respond, and then build rapport, and so go the opposite. Anytime you feel like they're not being forthright, mismatching. Now that works. By the way, all this stuff works. It doesn't work 100% of the time. So that's when you got to get the dance.
Yep.
Right. And by the way, there's one fail-safe that I'll have here, because sometimes you got somebody who's like this, and no matter what, you are not going to win.
Yep.
Right. And so I'll give you one fail-safe that will save you if you do it consistently. If you just did this one thing, you could actually probably net $300,000 or $400,000 a year, and I'll talk about that. But that stealth mismatch, you won't want to get really, really good at that. I notice it works really, really good at home, by the way. So just so you know.
This is live.
This is live. So I can't really talk too much about using it at home, but just know it works.
So I did a sales presentation, and my wife watched it. That stuff doesn't work anymore after.
Oh, yeah. That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
So are we good on the stealth mismatch, by the way? I mean,
yep.
Do we do that?
Get it.
One other thing, though, too, is these are habits and routines, and we talk about becoming a master of your craft, and there's some things that if you just do them every day, you win, right? If you sales train every day, you win. If you market every day, you win. You prospect every day, you win. The last part about it is all these techniques, I know we didn't touch on everything, is on the offers who have any inkling on selling whatsoever, send out a written offer. Mail it out. Right? Because sometimes you are not going to be on your game, right? But I can tell you what, if you do that, if you're sending out 100 offers a month, 1 or 2 will be accepted, right? And send them out with $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 profit. And if you do that, right, people like, it costs me $7,500 to do a deal. Well, that one deal of 20 or 30 grand will totally change your month, right? And that's where these little dials, if you just get a little better at each one of these areas, they're going to start to multiply.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so I'm telling you, just do it.
Yep.
Right? And you win.
You know, it's funny because there's a guy in our office that does that. And he was telling me about it. I was like, get the hell out of here. You just mail blind offers? Because we've heard Jack Bosch talk about it. Of
course.
Right, for land.
Yeah.
Right? I said, okay, that makes sense. It's land, whatever.
Yeah.
He does it in Mesa.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so you were talking about your fail-safe.
Well, that was the fail-safe.
Oh, the fail-safe. Okay.
Is the mailing the offers, right?
Gotcha.
So, again, you use all these techniques. And by the way, the majority of the deals will be locked up using the sales techniques, right? But the last habit is just mailing out offers, right? Because just having a sheet of paper, it's non-confrontational. They can look at it. They can hold it. And sometimes they'll just look at it and they'll be like, I don't want to take my medicine. I don't want to take my medicine, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden something happens the moment they're right there. And that contract is a salesperson that is selling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they know it's there.
Yeah.
Right? And so, very rarely will they just sign it and send it back to you, but it'll be just a spur another conversation. They'll call you and say, hey, this is expired, but can we do this today?
So, some questions here. Lots of praise. You guys have a lot of fans, apparently.
All right. Can I tell them all real quick that you're going to be on the Wholesale Hotline on Monday? You are at Wholesale Hotline on Monday, guys. Facebook Live. We're going to be here taking over Steve's studio, answering your questions. Steve's going to be here. It's going to be bananas with Pace Morby, Jamil Damji, Brent Daniels, Steve Trang.
Answering all questions.
That's right. So what do we got?
All right. So question is, would you get a self-directed IRA and take the money from investing into doing your deals?
Oh, this is great.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be really careful, right? You shouldn't be taking your own. And again, I'm not a lawyer or a tax accountant, right? If you do a deal and you got to do it with your IRA, make sure it's only with your IRA, right? So don't commingle funds and take an assignment fee and then use your IRA to buy it. The IRS can disqualify it. However, if you got another wholesaler in town, I would highly suggest negotiating with them and sourcing deals from them, and using your IRA funds from them. Okay, I would joint venture.
Switch.
Yeah, just switch. I am huge on joint ventures, right? Huge on joint ventures. Stop trying to invent everything. If you really want to beat your competition, join them, okay? And you guys will kill it together. You don't have to partner with them on everything, but a deal is just fine.
Oh, we
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, we know that.
Our whole,
Yeah.
we've got our squad.
We have a crazy city.
Yeah.
Yep.
Patricio Martinez wants to know, what's the minimum population of a city that you would consider for cold calling?
I actually like the cities that I've cold called in Prescott. I've cold called in Flagstaff, done very well. They're like 50,000. I would say probably 50,000 is the minimum, I would say. And I think you could totally dominate if you stay super focused. You absolutely have to drive for dollars, right? You have to build up that list, get all the little stuff, the code violations, the evictions, the probates, the pre-foreclosures in your small market and go after them all. Okay, it's not going to be a lot because there's just not a tremendous amount. You can burn through a list of the the 10,000 non-owner occupieds in a few months, and then what do you do the rest of your career? So make sure that you're going after those properties, but just like you gave me the stat, and I use it all the time. 6 to 10% of the market is in distress. So you got to figure that's going to be, a good amount of people there. 300 deals in a 50,000 person market, maybe more. So
A lot of opportunities still.
listen, you do 20 deals, your life's just going to change in a year. You do 50 deals, and your life is really good, and you can do that all yourself if you want to keep all your profits, or you can bring on somebody that gets some sales commissions or takes care of some of the operational stuff. So
I've got actually a little add-on to that. I think you alluded to that. So I was just in Florida fishing with my dad and my kids, my dad's grandkids.
Yeah.
And my dad and my whole family, they are like psycho fishermen, right? And they're like, what's the right tide? What's the right bait? What's the right rod? What's the right line? And so every time we went, my kids, the fishing stinks in California compared to Florida. And they just I just want to fish day in and day in and day out. And so my kids are like, okay, I want to fish at this time. And of course, according to my dad, he's like, no, this isn't perfect. So we showed up like every day. And we sat there way longer than my dad wanted to.
Yeah.
Right? But every single time, guess what? We caught a fish.
Yeah.
So we caught a fish. So we're sitting there, and on the last day, my dad is like, this is the worst tide. We're not catching fish. Let's get out of here. Come on, guys. You guys did great. He's like, I'm so proud of you guys, trying to get them to go. And they're like, nope, we don't want to go. And it's funny, I was using a term. I was like, you always have to have your bait in the water, kids. Always. I go, the conditions will never be right.
Yep.
2 seconds later, my daughter gets a huge jack on the line. Right? I put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right? And this is thing. And it's funny. So we start going, and all my kids' lines are there, and it all gets tangled. Everything goes wrong. And she obviously just want to lose it. It's going all over the place. And I'm grabbing it now. I have the line. We cut all the lines, but I grab the line, and I bring it in there, and we get the fish, and it's huge. But just going back to what you're saying, I think those stats are important. We should put ourselves in a good advantage. A part of that is sometimes we can outthink ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Overcomplicate.
Yeah. More complicated. It's just show up every single day, right? And you're going to get the monster.
So that goes back to the next question to Tariq Hakeem. He wants to know, what one thing should he do every single day to generate a deal in a competitive market like Denver?
Talk to people. I mean, you got a couple of options. I mean, be proactive and get really good niche lists in your market, but also stop messing around. Go get referrals from other people. Go joint venture with other people that need help selling their deals. Build up a cash buyer database. Get people that need properties and match them up with people that need to sell these properties. So I think a couple different things. I think people need to be building up their referral network 100%. The Keegley model, the whole joint venturing, building up that cash buyer, being the dispo of helping out the other wholesalers, investors, agents, neighbors, family, whatever that's out there. I think that's 100%. But you need to the goal that she should have, just to put this to make it tactical, is talk to 10 new people a day. Seriously, talk to 10 new people a day that are filtered down into some sort of distress list, or that are somebody that is in the industry that could potentially send you referrals.
If you talk to 10 people every day and let them know that you buy houses, you can't not buy houses.
I know.
You can't not buy houses. And I'll add on to that, is that the reason why the crazy competitive market is crazy is because the buyers are willing to pay so much. Right? So that means that you have a hungry customer on the back end, which means that you can lock up deals for a much higher price and sell them at ridiculous prices, and their margin is not that small. So working with other wholesalers just to expand on that, your opportunity is in the buyers, not necessarily in the sellers.
Can we talk about this event real quick?
Yes, please.
So Todd and I have been getting together. We've been talking about this for the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
It's March 6th and 7th in Todd's hometown of San Diego.
Oh, it's terrible that time of year.
Right. 2 days. It is going to be the most packed 2 days of all time. We're not talking about sitting and somebody on stage talking to. I'm not talking about getting into somebody's office and talking to their admin staff. No, we're talking about rotating, moving, and getting the absolute best tools, tactics, resources for 2020. We sat together and said, how do we get the best, how do we have the 2020 be the best year ever for our wholesaling businesses? What do we do? So we looked at lead generation, we looked at conversion, and we looked at disposition. And I'll let you, I'll get you in with the conversion. But lead generation, we're going to have Annie Dragonova from Batch, talk about the text blasting, voicemail drops. I'm going to be talking the best methods for cold calling and door knocking. We've got Ryan Dossie there, who is a absolute just wonder kid that is getting deals in the biggest markets for $2,500 from direct mail marketing. We've got Brandon Bateman, who's one of the top pay-per-click guys of all time. Chris Chico with Facebook, and Todd there talking about building a referral for lead generation. On the dispo side, Pace Morby going to be there talking about subject twos. Jameel Damji talking about building your cash buyer database. You're going to be talking about what was it? The dispo seller financing, right? Different tactics for exit strategies. So it's not just wholesaling. And in the middle, squeezed in the middle of that is Todd, and we're going to certify people in the seller presentation so that you can convert more deals.
Right, and so the biggest thing is that we're really going to be focusing on that conversion side. I mean, we think that is so important, and so a big part of that workshop is going to be forcing people out of their comfort zone, right? To remove that shell, to role play, to go through each part of the seller presentation, to say it until at the end of those 2 days, they're like done.
Yep.
Just done, right? And so the space is going to be open. They're going to be rotating. And so no one's going to leave there without significantly upping their game, which we're just...
Wholesale certified...
We were talking about reps.
WholesaleCertifiedPro.com. WholesaleCertifiedPro.com. Literally, it is the smallest group of all time. I really hope that you guys, everybody in the TTP family, if you guys need, come on. Everybody that's done No Limits, everybody in Phoenix, this is going to be so bananas.
It's going to be good.
It's going to be incredible. It's going to really set a new standard. We love it. We love bringing all these people together. We love making sure that you get the best resources.
I'm also really excited about Chris Chico, too.
Yeah.
And, he's kind of like, he's kind of, everything he does is kind of undercover, although he's got a big YouTube channel. But he's always looking to extract the latest marketing channel. If he's like, hey, this doesn't work, he's the first one to be like, oh, direct mail dude is fading. Yeah. Right?
Yep.
He's onto something. He invented the cash buyer postcard, which we still use to this day. So I'm really looking forward to having him there too.
Awesome.
Well, I think that's exciting. I think that's important. I think
WholesaleCertifiedPro.com.
So there should be nothing left to question, right? You should have everything.
This is it.
Well, let me say this, is that I think we're eliminating almost everything that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're new and you were overwhelmed and you're like, oh my gosh, this and that, I'm like, no. Generating leads, conversion, dispo. And we're going to give everyone exactly what they need to raise their game in each one of those, so that when they leave there, not only is that most important skill which they need to master, is significantly elevated, but they have eliminated the overwhelm, eliminated the confusion, eliminated the shiny objects, so that they know, I'm going to generate leads, I'm going to convert those leads, and I'm going to maximize those for maximum profit. And that's really where this came from, and the passion, the energy, because we want you to do more deals. And we want you to have more money in your pocket.
Yes.
Right. So I think that's awesome.
Yep.
A few more questions here.
Yeah, let's go.
Manly Hines, is Brent or Todd still locking deals up on the phone, or are you going to appointments?
Ooh. Good one. Well,
I know what you're doing.
What am I doing?
You're getting them on the phone.
Yeah. Well, we're getting them on the phone, but we have one dispo guy who he's really, really, really good in person. So it is a mixture, right?
Yep.
We can lock him up on the phone. I love it. But it all comes down to if you're in your local market
Yes.
and you're there,
Yes.
get face to face.
Get
There's no reason
face to face.
not to do it.
Who's that? Manly?
Manly Hines.
Yeah, get in front of them.
Right.
If you're not doing it virtually, if you're able to get there, get in front of them. I have driven to Flagstaff for an appointment. Okay, because it was a smoking deal. I knew they were older. I knew that if I got in front of them, we would locked it up, make 30, 40, 50,000. I mean,
Brent Daniels.
Yeah.
Drove the Flagstaff.
Yeah.
make the
Well,
deal happen.
I have a cabin.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But that being said, right, is that if you decide to be in a virtual market,
Yeah.
right, don't let the fact that you don't have boots on the ground affect you. Although don't let you could hire boots on the ground, right?
Yeah.
But you build up that muscle, right? So for me, I have built up that muscle that I don't really like to, drive or leave the house too much. I'm kind of a homebody,
Yep.
right? So. In your team, but I've trained them in their virtual markets just lock it up over the phone, right? And then use a notary as your boots on the ground. I mean, really, like, who's trying to go out there, right? Close the thing and then train your notary out there. Your notary, by the way, you can train them to do just about anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like, hey, let me teach you about the stealth mismatch.
Take this no limit sales course. Yeah.
Brandon Simmons
Yeah.
asked us to get Todd Toback into the Go Giver REA mastermind. Brandon Simmons runs one of the best masterminds,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So that's how we reconnected.
That is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds awesome, man. Where's my invite?
You just got it.
All right, come
Yeah.
on.
From Brandon himself.
I know.
Thank you, Brandon. Love
There
Brandon.
you go.
All right. So, what do you guys do when the seller puts you in a bidding war? So that's a tough.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Look at you here. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
I got this offer from Brent.
Yep.
It's at 80,000. I got 2 other investors coming. What's your offer?
Well, remember, you got to remember what your time is worth. You got to know what your emotional energy is worth. All right. And so the biggest thing is either that's real or it's not real. Right. So what I'm going to do immediately is I'm going to throw in my stealth mismatch. Right. I can tell you most likely. Right. I don't know who these investors are. I don't know their credibility. I don't know how long they've been in business. They could be great. They may not be. But I know I'm probably not going to be able to be at the top. Right. Is there even a reason for us to meet? And I'll throw that out there, right?
By the way, did you see him like kind of tearing away the confidence of that other offer? I don't know how long they've been in business. I don't know how many properties they buy.
Right.
They might be good. They might not.
Well, notice like they might be great.
Yeah.
Right? But, so I went the opposite way. Well, what do you mean they might be good? They're not great? I'm like, I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
So, and again, I exaggerated that.
I love it.
But
Yeah.
you keep it natural. Right? Now, the part of this is you also may want to dig deeper. Right? And say, well, what else is going on there, right? Because they may say, well, look, I want post-occupancy for 6 months. Boom. I'm almost at the table here. Boom.
Yeah.
Right? And so now I found something that no other seller was able to get rid of, right? And by the way, if you join venture, if you've got the money in place, and this is something that we're getting really, really good at, we're putting together like monster deals right now on commercial stuff. Line up money. If you should have to close a deal, right, you can find out how to do that. Close it, right? But you can give someone occupancy for 6 months or a year or whatever they want if the deal
numbers make sense.
The numbers make sense. And that might be it. And they might be so scared because everyone's throwing numbers at them, right? Because of the way you have all these inexperienced people who have no sales skills. All they know how to do is throw numbers and they're not listening. So just find out which one you have. Now, if there's like $2,000 or $3,000 on the table, I'm not going out there. Please, if you're listening to this, don't go out there. I have a couple wholesalers in my market, and God bless them. But they're like, I'm going to go out there so that I can make that, and I'm going to it's one more deal that they don't get, and I'm going to put them out of business. I don't focus on my competition.
Yeah.
There's a million things that I can do better, right, to work on me, right? So I'm going to fix those first before I worry about my competition. So just, be mindful of your time. And if they say no, if they reject your offer, if you decide not to go out there, guess what? FedEx an offer. Right? It might get accepted. You never know.
And watch it, because what some people do is, oh, you've got another offer from who? And then that seller's like,
Or you start
all
talking
out
to
of
somebody
a
else.
So who's it from? Oh, is it all cash? Did they give it to you in written?
Yeah.
Did you sign it? What title company are they using?
Yeah.
And you start getting specific, and then it turns into this whole thing where you're
Adversarial.
friction. So don't do that.
Yes.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Be like, okay, great. Confirm, approve. That's excellent.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Well,
the only person that might work with is like that high D personality, right?
Of course.
And you're like, and if you let them win in some way,
Yep.
that's fine. You can sense that, but that's a really, really good point. I mean,
Yep.
if you tension is the enemy of a deal,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to learn how to move the sale forward, right? But it's almost like a, it's almost like a.
That's good.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
No, but you got the body flex, but you're not going backwards, right?
Yeah. I love it. So I think, I would look at this.
We're going to teach that dance move, by the way, at wholesalepro.com.
On stage.
Yep.
So I think one thing I want to add to there, because I love what you did there, right? And so we do something similar where we just say, that's great. That's a good offer. You should sign it.
Yes.
Right? You should sign it. And they're like, well, I don't know. I was like, I'm just kind of confused. Like, that's a good offer. Like, what stopped you from signing it? Let them tell us what's wrong with that offer. It's like, whatever. It's like, I can see why that's wrong.
That is awesome.
Well, and it's interesting.
I can tell you probably have a couple 100,000 reps yourself.
let me ask you guys this, and this is just for my own education. So what would happen with me is they tell me they got an offer for 80,000. I know that I really want it for 70, but 70 would make me 30. 82 can make me 18, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys ever go in and get the if I come over and I can beat that offer, are you willing to sign the paperwork with me tonight?
I used to.
Okay.
Used to.
Okay. Not anymore?
No.
Why?
Because we don't do this. This is that harder close, right? So it's like, I don't know if we can beat it.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not even sure that's something we're gonna buy.
Yeah.
Let's pretend we could work something out. What would happen next?
Yep.
It's never will you sign. We never ask that question. It's always like, if we could do that, what would happen next?
I mean, I can't stand that term, will you sign? I mean, because we've had our acquisition specialists say that, and I'm like, I almost have like a epilepsy.
I want to throw a chair at somebody.
Right, yeah. So, because that just causes tension, right? Will you sign? It sounds like I'm chasing you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, you want to say, look, before we even get into price, right, I'll come back and I'll take control of the conversation. Right, I'm not even saying if I could, but let's say I could get to that. What was the price you said? 118.
It's called 82.
80. What if I could get to that 83? And I'm not saying I could, right? But what if I could get to that 80, 83 that you were talking about, right? Range technique, right? What would even be the next step? And I might even, because a lot of people will do that, and they'll rush out there and they're like, well, I got to talk to my sister.
Yeah.
Right. So, I love the all these cushions. And
what would be the next step?
Pullaways, because they reveal these hidden objections, and a lot of your competition, again, they're not beating you on price, right? It's a time war. It's a time war. It's you versus you, because now they spend 3 hours dealing with this person who never would have done that business. You want to beat them? Value your time.
Yeah, that's
I
huge.
love that. I don't even know if I could get you 83.
Yeah.
But if I could, what would be the next step?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Dude, is this getting like, this should be like, you got to rev this, right?
Oh, yeah,
do you blog this?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, guys, listening to this, watching this, if you don't like download the vlog, this is incredible. You guys are the best.
This is awesome.
You guys are the
I'm
best.
learning a ton from still here.
But I think that taken away, like that's the biggest piece. And like, so what else will we ask? We'll ask, what happens next? We'll ask them like, that's a great offer. So when you signed it, when are you guys closing?
Oh, I like that. That's a good one too. but that's a
Party man.
Stealth mismatch.
Yeah.
Right? Again, when you signed it. Right?
Yeah, when you signed it,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, I haven't signed it. It's like, why not?
Are people enjoying this? Are they commenting?
We're
that
getting
they're
some hearts.
stuff
We're
in
getting
here?
some likes. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
So that's good.
I hope people are getting this, because this is really the conversion side of it. I'm telling you, these
It's a
techniques.
big piece.
And listen, here's the thing. I think people look at this thing like it's an overwhelming Mount Everest.
No.
There's only going to be, maybe, like really consistently, maybe a dozen true objections that you run into, maybe 20. How about you go on these appointments, you write down these objections, you talk to the best people that you can around, write 2 responses to it, and practice. And practice your tone, and practice your pacing, and practice being able to do it. So when it comes out, you're not practicing live on an appointment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like
role play with people. You love that.
Well, I love role playing, right? And we're gonna do a lot of that at the event. But the one thing I would say is, if you're overwhelmed from anything that we talked about, you don't need to know all of this.
Right.
You don't.
Right. You can just take 2 things. So I'll just give you a couple action items that you can try today.
Love it.
Okay.
Yep.
And I use this with someone. I use my wife all the time, right? Because it always evokes more talking from my wife.
Okay.
Right. So Ask me a question.
Where are we going after this?
I don't know.
Are we gonna go grab some coffee?
Or
Head back to Brent's office?
Or how are you? Are you feeling tired?
No, I'm not tired.
Okay, because is there a reason why you asked me about coffee or?
I don't know. I just want to hang out.
Oh,
Just want to spend more time with you guys.
Okay, cool.
So your response is, I don't know?
No, my only response was I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's
Right?
magic.
And so who started, when I said I don't know, who started talking?
Me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you didn't want coffee, but guess what? I learned that you wanted to hang out.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's
a redirect.
It's just a redirect. So if you, it's not the perfect redirect,
Mm-hmm.
but what I'm saying is if all of a sudden you get stuck,
Yep.
like today,
I don't
you're
know.
like, oh my gosh, what happened? Just say, I don't know, and then shut up. So that's just like one rookie's mistake. Like if you're on the football field and the defense is going crazy and you just want to hand it off to a running back, right? The I don't know thing is just like that one key thing that I want to give everybody.
Love it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's magic. It's amazing how like I don't know, and like, what do you mean you don't know? And they'll tell you what you need to know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's magic.
At the very least, it's going to buy me time to think of something to say.
Vance Courtney wants to know when you're sending an offer, does it matter if it's DocuSign?
Vance is coming.
Yeah, come on, Vance.
Vance
Come
is
on now.
coming to the,
Does it matter if you DocuSign, email, or snail mail?
Just
to
get
send
it.
out your offers?
Just get it done. Well, here's what I'd say. On the offers, like the
Snail mail.
fail safe,
Yeah.
right, is always snail mail. Because
Yep.
if you send someone a DocuSign, they're
Yeah.
like, what is this?
Yeah.
Ah, Nigerian scam.
Or just delete. Yeah, right. Yeah, for
right.
sure.
Right, so just the snail mail, absolutely. And I've deviated from this. It's snail mail all the way.
Yep.
Kish Esrani wants to know how many properties in Phoenix does it take on average to get a deal when you're driving for dollars? How many D4D entries?
1 out of 100.
1 out of 100.
Yep. Yeah, but you got to, first of all, you got to get, you have to either, you got to talk to them, right? So you got to get them on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Out of those 100, you got to figure that you'll talk. It's probably more than that. Let me now that I'm breaking it, 150. Because here's what, you're going to get a hold of 10% of them if you call them. So that's going to be 15 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that 15, you should get somebody that's going to do business with you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing. It depends on what your exit strategy is. If it's subject to, if it's seller financing, if it's wholesaling, if it's flipping, or if it's buying it as a rental. You have different options. It just depends on if you know how to use them. Remember, every deal comes down to 3 things: price, terms, and you. That's it.
Yeah.
Price, terms, and you. So, if you have more that you can do that's not just price, which is wholesale, flip, that type of thing, then you can start working terms, which you have just crushed and made a fortune on in California because, he knew how to do it and he has a background in a lot of different creative financing. So, that's what I would say.
So Brandon Simmons says that you were one of his coaches. So big props there. He wants to know who coached you.
Man, first of all, there's so many people. I can tell you this. So back in lease, I got into lease options. So that was Peter Conti and David Finkel. I jumped in their seminar and paid a bunch of money for it. It was 2 days, rocked the room, and it was funny because I just ate it up. And I remember my wife. She's like, because I had just gotten married at the time. Or no, I'm sorry. She's always saw me like referring back to the material, so I'd bust open these binders, and I mean, this is when they still gave up binders back then. And she's like, "You really put this stuff into practice." So, he's one of that. But my very first mentor was a virtual mentor. Robert Allen had the book Multiple Streams of Income.
Yep.
Right.
Amazing book.
And amazing. It's so simple, but he was like, "This is the basics."
Yeah.
Right. And so that got me really, really, just really, really pumped up. And then what happened was, I started my podcast, back in 2011 or 12, and I was talking mostly about lease options. But Sean Terry, started to put a bug in my ear about wholesaling, right? And so we started looking at the checks, and 11 or 12, right? This is when it started to like heat up. Yeah. So Sean was a big influence on wholesaling. I mean, he taught me how to mail like a boss. I remember I was kind of always a friendly competition with him because when he said he mailed 10. Then I went out and put 30, and he did 50. And then one time, I did 100,000 postcards in LA at one point. And I'm shocked I made
in a
money
month
back. I did 100,000 in LA the first time out, like with the 2 reps.
Right.
And
in a month.
In a month. Oh yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But no, it was like one shot too.
Yeah.
On top of that,
Yeah.
and that was totally stupid. Never do anything like that.
Break it up.
Break it up. Yeah. Break it up. But Sean really helped me. Sean got me in wholesaling. So credit to Sean Terry back in there. And then, it's funny. Michael Jake, to this day, we talk about this. He's out of those 15 leads that he's going to get, that guy's going to buy 5.
Yeah.
Just so you know, right?
Yeah.
And this guy's got super high net worth. You never heard of him. Try to get him on the show, by the way. He's not into the limelight, but he is into teaching and helping.
Yep.
I
paid him monthly to mentor me for a year. Incredible.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, really, really phenomenal. And then I've got, my local mentors who taught me in sales, right? And so obviously Derek Clark with Pfizer, huge mentor to me, super go-giver, gave everything, when I was working at Pfizer. And so I talk about the job, but I think also that is part of having gratitude of the people who were in my life.
Gratitude is such a appreciated. I mean, you hear people talk about it every once in a while, but to practice gratitude consistently. I love helping people that say thank you. And then when they tell me the feedback, like, oh, I did this and it worked, that's so fulfilling. And you got other people is like, this sucks. When you said it didn't work, it's like, okay, I'm not talking to you.
Yeah. And so part of that also, when you have the gratitude, like I used to talk about how my job sucked all the time, right? And then now I look back, it's funny, and now that I was more open to that, also, Derek was always great, but as soon as I started verbalizing that, I started to remember some of the sales things that he taught me, because he used to come on the field rides with me and hang out with me for 8 hours. And so I have a built-in sales coach who's going to hang out with me for 8 hours
How lucky
for
is
free,
that?
right? How long was that?
How lucky is that?
Oh, I'm so lucky at that. I'm like, oh my gosh, And so it's funny, I'm writing a sales book right now, and I want to send a copy to Derek and just thank him so much and leave the forward to him. So, love you, Derek, by the way. There's no way he's listening to this or ever listening. He's old school, but, maybe we can send you the MP3.
Yeah.
Maybe a CD.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, going back to what we were talking about in the very beginning. First I'll talk to Brent. So Brent and I, we talked about this offline. We don't talk about it a lot online.
Yeah.
But, we were joking about free and clear Fridays.
Yep.
You want to elaborate what free and clear Fridays, what the premise was?
You mean just paying everything off?
Paying everything off.
Yeah.
It's controversial.
Yeah.
Everyone looks at Brent and me like we're like the weird people.
Well, I think, certainly so I read the book, The Financial Matrix, and it basically shows the evolution of slavery from the beginning of time to now, and how really...
having debt was really bad.
Well, we all, debt is really bad.
But it was slavery back then.
Right, but it is now. People work half their year to pay their interest. That's the stats. People pay half their year. So half of your time, your 9 to noon every single day is paying the bank, is paying interest, is paying creditors, is making somebody else richer, right? And it's just like, having somebody as whatever. So anyway, read that book, paid off all personal debts, mortgage, cars, student loans, credit cards, whatever. Pay it off. Pay it off as fast as possible. Pay it off over time. Just get rid of it. Because here's the thing. Once you have that off your plate and you're not stressed from the bills that you have to pay and the debt that you have to pay, all of a sudden it frees you up to actually pursue what your purpose in life, your passions in life, what really fulfills you in life, right? And it's not just I have to do this because I got to pay these bills and I got to do this and that. And the problem is people get into too much debt because they want to buy. It's the whole Gary Vee thing, right? People buying stuff they don't need to impress people that they don't care about. You know what I mean? And I really think that that's a true thing. So I think I live off of 10% of my income. The rest is saved and put into assets, into properties or invested. And so I don't go baller out and crazy. And 2, pay off everything. I buy investment properties cash. I just don't want to worry about anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's been phenomenal. And actually, your brother put me on that path. Tom Kroll put me on that path. And Cody Hoffine. He paid off everything as well.
How much easier is it making decisions where you don't have to worry about bills?
100%. Literally, if the world melted and everything ended and all my income went away, I could be an Uber driver and live a great life, for real. And having that is, we get out of college and all of a sudden we start getting debt, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh gosh, life's so stressful. Oh gosh, I'm tired all the time. Oh gosh, I can't wait for the weekend. I don't even know what day it is today. You know what I mean?
You're setting us on a whole other path, which is awesome.
Yeah.
There's so much more to talk about.
Yeah.
I have actually a little bit of different view, although it's similar. First of all, I believe in, get out there and produce.
Yep.
Income, Get to work. Eliminate distractions and make it happen, right? Like everyone who's struggling in wholesaling, I love you, okay? I know you want better for your life, but the truth is every time I ask someone who's struggling in wholesaling, how many phone calls have you made? You know what the answer is? Like 0 or like 15 today. And like, I don't have a job. Literally, someone sent me an Instagram and said, I don't have a job. I can't find a deal anywhere. And they said they called 15 people today.
All right.
Right?
It's hard to find a deal, make $15,000 a day.
And I'm like, you should be like a rabid dog calling 100 people. Like, and by the way, the truth is, and I can tell you this, it takes 20, if you're doing hand dialing, right? Hand dialing, it takes 1 hour to make 20 phone calls.
Yep.
1 hour.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And if you are like really, really analytical and you don't look at the screen for an hour between each phone call, it'll take you like an hour and 20.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, you have, and you and I both have this, right? I think you have it too, is you have to have this thing that I'm going to produce. I'm going to produce and produce and produce and produce and have this crazy attitude like a starving, hungry animal. You have to keep that hustler edge. And you have to be in that mode at least 2 or 3 days a week, right? I learned this from Dan Sullivan. He words it completely different, okay? And the other 2 days a week, you want to start thinking about your future, right? On how do I delegate? How do I now grow the business? How do I make this beyond myself? Right, and how do I maybe hire an assistant now so you can start to put, so you're not going to be grinding forever, but forget the nonsense. 2 or 3 days a week, you are working like a crazy, rabid, starving animal, and if you just do that, you're going to make money.
Yeah.
Now I go back to that's part of intentionality, right? You are out there trying to make money, and so Brent's plan works because it is a plan.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a plan. And so a lot of these people who go out with the fancy cars and the fancy, and they're always taking pictures of social media of like what they're doing or the bottle service, which, I just don't get, right? It's like they have their plan. There's living in this world of whatever. So my advice there would be just pick a plan and stick to it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm buying commercial property. I'm going to buy that with debt.
Yeah.
Right? And obviously the good debt and bad debt, you could talk about that, and I believe in that, right? But I paid off my house. I drive an older car than my cleaning lady, right?
Yeah.
Right. And mostly, all my friends, that's just the way I am because I see that. But my feedback on that is just have a plan, whether you want to live with, most people who live in debt or argue about the debt scenario don't have a plan.
Yeah.
And they just have credit card debt, right? So the guys who are like, I've got real estate debt and understand that and are working that plan, I think they're going to do great.
Yeah.
Brent's plan is going to do great, right? He's just at it.
Yeah. So I want to hit a couple of things on the keeping more money aspect because I think one thing that gets missed a lot, Brent's been in business longer than I have. In fact, there's a picture I posted of me giving him his DVDs back.
Yeah.
That he let me borrow.
The Mike Ferry training system.
That's so awesome.
I gave it to him after I sold my house and made $40,000.
Nice.
Yeah. So about 12 years ago, I gave him the DVDs back just recently. But, Brent and I have been in business for a long time. You've been in business a long time. There's this cycle where you start and you're like, man, how to get my first deal? And then you get to a point where like, I got to do as many deals as possible, right? And it's just about numbers and volume and units and profitability gets lost.
Yep.
And then you get past this point and you're like, okay, realistically, I should worry about profits. So profitability.
Yes.
What kind of profitability should you have
Love it.
as a solopreneur? And what kind of profitability should you have where you're like doing deals? Like you've got a business that you're kind of involved in. What are your targets?
Depends on if you are prospecting, if you're marketing, or if you're getting referrals, right? So obviously if you're prospecting, getting referrals, you don't have a ton of upfront costs. But I don't think that you should rule out marketing if you can afford it, when you can afford it, to be consistent, to get really big deals. So I think that if you're just prospecting and you're getting referrals, you should be able to keep 80 to 90% of what you earn. Right? It shouldn't cost you much to buy data. It shouldn't cost you much to get the technology you need to make a lot of calls. And it shouldn't cost you anything if you're getting referrals, right? From a marketing standpoint, I don't know. I think that once you start, I think that a healthy business, once you get to, once you're hiring people, if you can keep 40%, I think that's a really good business. If you're not having to get in there every single day and work it.
Yeah.
If you've got acquisition managers, if you've got dispo, if you've got lead managers, whatever. I'm curious to hear your answer. But I also think that one acquisition manager can do $1 million worth of deals. So this having thousands of acquisition managers that come in and out all the time, I don't think it's a smart idea. And I think that you could set it up so that you have somebody in-house that blasts to your buyers list, builds your buyers list, and the acquisition manager actually negotiates with the final buyer and can dispo it too. So it's just ways to save money.
40%.
40%. That was a long answer to get to 40%.
No, I mean, I agree with Brent, right? Because the biggest thing is, first of all, if you're a solopreneur, you're going to be negotiating great deals.
Yeah.
Right? Great deals. And San Diego, it's crazy high to get deals. I mean, it's $7,500 to get a deal from direct mail right now. But if you make it 50, right? Well, if you make 50?
Is that crazy high? That seems reasonable.
$7,500
for California.
No, it's about right. I mean, that's about
whichever's deal.
20,000 postcards. But my average assignment is going to be 40 or 50. If it's less than 40, I'm seeing a therapist, right? I mean, just because the market, that's just the way the market is, right? And you got to know that, right? But over time, if you're working that, what happens, people also mess up their profitability,
Right.
and they don't know what it looks like. So I know it's hard to hear this if you're just joining the game. But let's say you have a year and you spent $35,000 in direct mail and you made 120, right? And you're like, okay, my profitability was like 40 or 50 and Brent said it should be 80 or 90. And you're like, okay, I'm not feeling so great about this. Well, what can happen is that deal now pops in year 2. Could pop in year 3.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened with us, right? But we've closed 3 deals that have been in our database for 6 years in the last 90 days, right? I shouldn't say that. It's actually through, we started texting the database, right? And of course, those deals.
You started freshening them up.
You start freshening them up, right? But those direct mail campaigns that look like they bombed, right, now look great. Okay,
Right.
so let me say that. So I think that you should be running, though, definitely above 60% if you're a solopreneur. Right, because if you're not running at 60%, as soon as you start hiring people, you're toast.
You're
Forget
gone.
it. You're done. You're gone. Right.
Yep.
So, you don't even know how to do what you're trying to do. So there's no way you're going to hire somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
Second part is
Crucial point.
Yeah.
People miss that because they really want to abdicate as quickly as possible versus delegating effectively.
Abdicate versus. I mean. Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't understand that you need to be a leader.
Yeah.
Like you need to have leadership skills. It's not
It's the most valuable skill.
the boss. You have to have that extreme ownership, like Jocko's book, that says, listen, like I'm responsible. I work for these guys, right? Not the other way around. And I need to be able to be comfortable with their whole financial situation in the palm of my hands.
Yeah.
This is their family. This is their livelihood. This is everything. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it doesn't, you bite off more than you can chew. But you need to have leadership skills, and you need to really develop that and either take some classes, find out about it, find great leaders, have some mentorship there, and then get into it. If you just start hiring people and then it's going and it's wild and it's this and that, and now you're distracted with training. I see it all the time.
And it takes away from prospecting.
Of course.
It takes away from prospecting.
Takes away from everything.
Yeah.
Takes away from your sleep. Takes away from your family. Takes away from your exercise. Takes away from everything once you start hiring everybody and you don't have a planned leadership skills or somebody that's going to do that for you in your business.
Even adding to that, right? One of the things I noticed about Brent that he does so good is that this guy in his companies, he's in it. Mm-hmm. Can you tell this guy is in it? Like when you walk
he sees it.
But his people, they know that Brent is in it. Yeah. Right? I mean, he loves the company and is for them because that his people, I sense it when I walk in.
I'm always surprised that he's there whenever I go to their office.
Yeah.
I just assume that he's not going to be there.
Yeah.
Why is he there?
Yeah.
Well, his people want to, work hard for him, and so that's something that you've got to. Your people aren't going to be like, oh, this guy's paying me, so I'm going to make him all this money, so that he can make a 50% profit, so he can go golf. They can't feel that way.
No.
They can't feel that way, right? They got to feel like you're there for them, and it does not. A little trick is, it does not mean that you need to be there 40 or 50 hours a week. My dad used to do this. I know we're getting
This is great.
track.
This is
good.
great. This is the best, Steve.
I told you the story?
Yes.
So my dad had this big office with big telemarketing offices. I mean, this thing, you used to crank out $8 to $10 million a year net for my pops. And at one point, he decided he just wanted to preach. anymore, and he was really tired of the business. But he was smart in that he's like, the people got to believe that I believe, right? And go in there. So my dad, he used to go to the rec center and work out for 3 or 4 hours a day, just sit there and shave and talk about sports and whatever, right? And then he used to go to his office, but he used to dress up in like a pinstripe 3-piece suit every day. And he used to go to the office and he'd go, hey guys, how you doing? Get everyone excited, right? And it looked like he'd been working all day because he's in the suit, you know?
Yeah.
But he'd probably, when you have to work out and you still have the beads of sweat.
I feel like that now in here. It's warm.
Well, he used to go in there and he used to train everybody and get everybody excited for about 45 minutes, right? And you'd be like, all right, guys, high five, love it, love you all, guys. Hey, tomorrow, if you need anything, I'm here, and, and he'd say that. Then he used to go in his car, take off his suit, go fishing, or go preaching, right? And it doesn't need to be every day, but he was the way that he presented himself and the action, he was for the people and building them up. So it does not mean that you have to be there 40 hours a week. Let me just talk about profitability right now, and I'd love, because you've got a lot of experience in the show. When we started to see the market shift, because at one point we were scaling, I had a lot of wholesalers call me, and one of the things I do is I'm like, let's talk about the P&L, and don't lie to me.
Yep.
Tell me the truth, right? So all the guys with the big teams who are purely wholesaling, and generally purely wholesaling, right? I noticed they were all starting to really, really, really feel the pinch, right? They were starting to go broke, right?
Yep.
And I'm talking like, the 4 or 5 acquisition managers, and especially like the 4 or 5 different markets, right? Now the guys who are doing like, well and scaling, or they're buying and holding real estate and flipping, and they're doing, I'm a big believer in holding real estate, right? So I recommend that, but I've seen, they're looking at less than 20% profitability the way they go. And that's about right. Most businesses, it's like once you start to scale, right, beyond that 1 million mark, you got to go all in to the 10 million, right? And you could scale that to 20 or 20. You got to be okay with making 10 and keeping 2. Right. Once you start to go in that middle point, when you start to take on overhead and revenue doesn't grow, you're toast. And I think every one of those 3 phases is okay, right? But you just got to decide what you want to commit to.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how much stress you want. How big of a space do you want? What do you want to commit to? How long do you want to do it?
How much are you willing to sacrifice?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. So real quick, sum up. What's the event? When is it? How do they sign up?
All right. WholesaleCertifiedPro.com. It's March 6th and 7th. It is San Diego. What else?
San Diego, Wholesale Certified Pro. Just, they go there. They want to go in. They can watch a quick video and then learn more. If they want to apply, just click on it. If it feels good, as Brent says, then get on the phone hop on the phone with Derek, and he'll talk to him and see if it's fit.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So I'm going to let you guys think about what you want to leave listeners with.
Okay.
Guys, next week we got Chris Noggle coming in. He's going to talk about how to be your own private money lender. Kind of crazy the things that they're talking about. Really fascinating to watch him speak at Skillathon in New Orleans in December. So he's going to come on and talk about how to be your own hard money lender. It's really impressive stuff. So that's next Wednesday. Last thoughts. Who wants to go first?
Age before beauty.
The one thing that I would say is wherever you're at in this business, don't overcomplicate it.
Yep.
Right? You can do it. Remember, it's about 3 things. 1, generating leads. Pick 1 or 2 marketing channels. 2, convert. You can do anything if you can learn how to convert, right? If you don't want to spend any money on marketing, you can just meet with other wholesalers, get their deals, and sell them to the buyers. If you are totally broke, living homeless on the street, you could do that right now. And then 3, exit for maximum profit, right? If you don't have a buyer's list, partner with a guy who can actually extract max amount of value, or know another exit strategy, but go and do that. Don't overcomplicate it.
Yep.
And so just make it happen.
Awesome.
The foundation of this business is sourcing real estate opportunities. That's it. You learn that skill. You learn that ability. You learn that process, lead generation, conversion, disposition. You learn how to source real estate opportunities. You win. You can do anything. You can go in any different direction. You can go land. You can do commercial. You can do residential. You can do multifamily. Sourcing the deals is the foundation of this. And the key to that is consistent, quality conversations with distressed property owners. That's it. It's simple. At the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, there's one question, Steve. Did I have enough quality conversations with distressed property owners to hit my financial goals? That's it. It's that simple.
Simple.
Thank you, Steve.
Talk to people.
That was awesome,
Steve,
dude.
awesome.
Really
Thank you.
great
Under
time.
over here.
You're the best,
Appreciate
dude.
it.
Thank you guys for watching.
We learned
All right,
a ton.
thanks.
That was good.
Yeah, see we